This is our land, our story, and our responsibility. Reconciliation is not just an apology, it's for the truth. It's about remembering, and most of all, it's action. Those are the things that ReconciliACTION truly means for me. This video is my response to the Truth and Reconciliation Commission calls to action. It's a small step, but one that has to be taken, because I believe through narrative and story, education and learning, they can all make a difference. Let's begin, together, to uncover the history in our own backyard, to pay respect to the strength of Indigenous peoples, and to consider what responsibility looks like for all of us. The St. Mary's Indian Residential School in Mission, BC operated from 1863 to 1984. Over 120 years, First Nations students from surrounding communities were taken away from their homes and brought into this school, mostly by force. Used initially by the Roman Catholic Church and later by the federal government, St. Mary's was a part of a network of many Canada-wide schools that tried to erase Indigenous identity through punishment, neglect, and assimilation. A 2023 Stylo Nation report uncovered 158 children deaths attributed to the school. Most of them never returned home. Their names were never recorded. Their graves still yet to be marked. Even now, the school site remains a physical testament to this painful history. Some demand its demolition, while others recommend it kept open, as a site of memory, education, and remembering. Understanding this local history is essential to realizing the broader impact of residential schools across Canada. Residential schools were not isolated incidents, but rather an intentional attempt at erasing Indigenous cultures and languages, a pain that continues to plague many communities today. A good many of years before colonization, this land that we now call Surrey, British Columbia, had long been the home of the Indigenous traditional Coast Salish people. In particular, this is shared traditional land for the Semiahmoo, Katzie, Kwantlen, Kwikwetlam, Kaya, and Tawasin First Nations. The nations have deep cultural, spiritual, and economic ties to the land, water, and natural environment, which endure and thrive to this day. Surrey's urban Indigenous strategies is one of the ways in which the city is beginning to officially recognize and invest in the Indigenous peoples whose presence is both historical and ongoing. But action needs to follow words. Real reconciliation is about learning whose land we are on, being champions for Indigenous-led action, and respecting Indigenous sovereignty and traditions in everything we do. The Coast Salish nations continue to hold ceremonies, pass on languages, and teach future generations the importance of land connection. This resilience is important and deserves our respect and our support. Reconciliation also entails confronting hard truths and addressing systems of injustice that continue to affect Indigenous people today, whether that is in schools, healthcare, or the justice system. And despite intergenerational trauma, Indigenous people still lead, create, and inspire. Their stories are not merely about survival, but also one of celebration and achievement. Indigenous artists are having an impact in a deep and meaningful way in Surrey. In Salish Secondary School, an outstanding public art installation was created by artists like Deanna Point, Roxanne Charles, and Wes Anton. The piece contains the history and heritage of the Coast Salish and educates students on a daily basis. Brian Hughes is a carver from Surrey and a contemporary artist who brings together traditional Indigenous methods with present-day design. His art shows that Indigenous culture is not merely alive, but strong and still molding and shaping the future. These guardians of knowledge, artists, and storytellers are not just members of the community, they're creating it. Their actions remind us that Indigenous voices deserve to be listened to and valued. These success stories remind us of the importance of supporting Indigenous education, arts, programming, and leadership. Every gesture of support brings healing to the harms caused by the residential school system. So what now? What can we do with all this information? Reconciliation is not something you act on once or some insincere government statement. It's what you do for the rest of your life, and it starts with ordinary people. That's why I created this video, not just to instruct you on what I've learned, but to encourage others to do the very same thing. Learn about residential schools in your own neighborhood. Buy Indigenous art, books, and products. Join Indigenous events and ceremonies if invited, and speak up when someone is spreading misinformation. And most of all, keep listening and keep learning. Truth isn't always easy, but it is the best path forward, the only path forward. Support local Indigenous-led activities in Surrey or nearby neighborhoods. Volunteer, donate, or simply just take time out of your day to learn from Indigenous voices. As Mary Sinclair has said, education has got us into this mess, and education will get us out of it. That is what ReconciliACTION means to me. Thank you for watching, and I hope you've been inspired to keep learning, keep listening, and keep moving down the road of reconciliation. This land has stories. These stories hold truth, and this responsibility belongs to all of us.